I'm not a lawyer, but let's get into what happened on day 6 of the Diddy trial. Before Dawn Richard was brought back to the stand to continue her direct examination, the defense argued to the judge that some of the testimony is becoming a, quote, bad act free-for-all. Meaning the prosecutors are calling witnesses to speak about all of the violent or bad things that Diddy has done over the years, and they're not testifying about specific events that Diddy is actually charged for. The defense highlights that testimony from Dawn Richard, as well as an upcoming witness named David James, who is one of Diddy's assistants, will both be about Diddy allegedly committing assaults, but Diddy's attorneys say that Diddy isn't charged for assault, and even under the RICO charge, assault isn't one of the racketeering activities. In response to this, prosecutors say all of this is relevant to the RICO charge because it shows the method in how Diddy maintained his enterprise, meaning he used violence to keep people in line and doing what he wanted. And they also say that the assault David James is going to testify about was done to a chef who prosecutors say was a victim of forced labor. The judge takes these arguments and then says he will think about it. And from there, Dawn Richard is returned to the stand. If you recall, on Friday, she told the story of a time she went to Diddy's house to record, and while there, she testified to seeing Diddy attack Cassie and drag her upstairs by her hair. So Dawn is back on the stand, and prosecutors are asking her about other times that she witnessed Diddy being violent to Cassie. Dawn says that Diddy would punch, choke, drag, and slap Cassie in her mouth. And when asked why some of these things would happen, Dawn says that sometimes it would be because Cassie was speaking up for herself, it could be random, or other times she didn't even know why it was happening. Dawn says that she's seen Cassie with injuries on her face, arms, and legs, and she, as well as other members of Diddy's staff, saw Diddy's violence toward Cassie, and nobody would ever do anything. Dawn says that when she would witness some of this violence, she would ask herself, if he did that to someone he supposedly loved, what would he do to an employee? And so she chose not to intervene for her own safety, but also because, according to her, she didn't think Cassie was ready to do anything about what was going on. Dawn also testified about times she's seen Diddy with narcotics as well as weapons. Her direct examination is wrapped up with her testifying about the civil lawsuit that she filed against Diddy in 2024. Dawn says she filed it after seeing Cassie tell her truth. And with that, direct examination for Dawn Richard is wrapped, and attorney Nicole Westmoreland from the defense's side comes up for cross-examination. And in case you don't know, attorney Nicole Westmoreland was one of the attorneys in the YSL trial. She represented Quamarvius Nichols, and I also interviewed her on my podcast, and it was a great interview, so go watch. Nicole Westmoreland uses Dawn's lawsuit and previous interviews with police to try and discredit her testimony. Westmoreland first highlights that there's a current motion to dismiss Dawn's lawsuit, which has not been granted by a judge, it's just been filed. And then she moves on to what she says are inconsistencies with Dawn's testimony. In a 2024 letter, Dawn apparently said that she heard a pan hit the wall during the kitchen incident, but she didn't actually witness the incident happen. And then in a 2024 interview, Westmoreland says that Dawn told prosecutors Diddy actually hit Cassie with the frying pan. And then in another interview, Dawn apparently told prosecutors that Diddy threw eggs at Cassie, but he didn't use a pan when he threw it. And then on Friday on the stand, Dawn testified that Diddy tried to hit Cassie with the pan, but she fell to the ground, so he didn't actually hit her. Attorney Westmoreland asked Dawn if it's been hard to keep her story straight in regards to this egg incident, but Dawn says she's told it to the best of her memory. Westmoreland then transitions to what happened the day after the egg incident, which I need to make a correction because I misinterpreted some of the reports and said that the day after the incident, Cassie told Dawn and the other member of Dirty Money not to say anything because people go missing, but it was actually Diddy who allegedly brought Dawn and Kalina into a recording studio, locked the door, and then told them not to say anything because people go missing. Now, in asking Dawn about this people go missing comment, attorney Westmoreland references the several interviews that Dawn has done with prosecutors and highlights that Dawn never mentioned this comment in any of those interviews. She asked Dawn if today is the first time that she's made this claim, but Dawn responds, no. On cross, Westmoreland also has Dawn clarify that she has seen Diddy with a weapon a few times, but she's never actually seen him pull it out or load it with bullets. And then in relation to narcotics, when asked if Dawn told prosecutors she's never seen Diddy do a particular kind of narcotic, Dawn says she doesn't remember telling prosecutors that. Westmoreland asked Dawn if her testimony has changed on quite a few things, to which Dawn says as time progresses, she remembers more. In regard to a particular dealer being paid money in exchange for narcotics, on the stand, Dawn said she's seen that happen. But in response to that, Nicole Westmoreland says, quote, "Didn't you tell the government you never saw anyone pay that dealer? So you lied, right?" But Dawn responds, no. In continuing to try and poke holes in Dawn's credibility, Westmoreland asks if after she parted ways with Diddy and Bad Boy in 2011, and after he threatened her with that people go missing comment, if she still reached out to him to try and work together. Dawn acknowledges that she did reach out a number of times and as recently as 2020 to try and collaborate. At one point, Dawn admits to asking Diddy to sign her as a solo artist, but he declined. Dawn also acknowledged that she has not been as successful when trying to put out music on her own than when she was working with Diddy. And with that, Dawn's cross is complete. Westmoreland asked Dawn if she feels like Diddy ruined her career not once but twice, referring to Diddy choosing to end Danity Kane and Dirty Money, to which Dawn replied, yes. Westmoreland then asks her if she filed her civil suit against Diddy to get a lot of money from him, but Dawn says no, it wasn't to get a lot of money, but she does want to be compensated for the work that she put in. The government does a round of redirect, and Dawn clarifies that the reason she reached out to Diddy after leaving Bad Boy was to try and help Kalina Harper, the third member of Dirty Money. Dawn says she didn't actually want to work with Diddy again, she was just trying to help a friend. So from there, Dawn's testimony is wrapped, and then Cassie's ex-best friend, Carrie Morgan, is called to the stand. Very quickly into Carrie's testimony, she says that she and Cassie were best friends from 2001 to 2018, but they don't speak anymore because Cassie's boyfriend, meaning Diddy, assaulted her. Carrie says she doesn't want to be testifying right now, but is doing so because she was subpoenaed. She says she's moved on with her life away from these people and these problems. In her testimony, Carrie talks about how her and Cassie started living together in 2004, and at the time, Cassie didn't drink much and didn't use narcotics. After Cassie got with Diddy, Carrie testified that she traveled with the two of them all around the world, and while doing so, Diddy provided all of them narcotics. From there, prosecutors asked Carrie about times she witnessed Diddy being violent towards Cassie, and Carrie says there are 2 instances when she actually saw Diddy assault Cassie. Once was at his home. Carrie says she saw him push her. She's pretty sure she saw him hit her, and then she says she's not sure if he kicked her or something. Carrie says she tried to get one of Diddy's security guards to intervene, but he wouldn't. The second time was in Jamaica around 2013. Carrie said she heard Cassie screaming in the hallway, and when she ran in there, she saw Diddy dragging Cassie by her hair down the hallway. He later allegedly pushed Cassie to the ground, and then she ran barefoot into a wooded area. Carrie Morgan also testifies about what happened after the Intercontinental Hotel incident. If you recall, during Cassie's testimony, she said that Carrie was back at her apartment when she got there. Now, according to Carrie, she had been staying with Cassie ahead of Cassie's movie premiere, and on the day of the incident, Cassie came home with a black eye, and 30 minutes after she arrived, Diddy arrived, yelling and banging on the door with a hammer trying to get in. The police were called, but because Cassie wouldn't give them her ID or cooperate, nothing came of the incident. The questions then turned to the time Diddy allegedly assaulted Carrie herself. Carrie says that Diddy let himself into the apartment while Cassie was in the bathroom, and according to her, he came up behind her, choked her, and then, quote, boomeranged a wooden hanger at her head. Morgan says she told Diddy's assistant that he's gone crazy, and then she got her things and left. Carrie testifies that she thought about filing a lawsuit, but about a month after the incident, Carrie and Cassie met up, and Cassie told her that Diddy would be giving her $30,000 for the incident. Carrie signed an NDA that day and then never spoke to Cassie again. And she also confirmed that she did, in fact, receive the money. With that, Carrie Morgan's testimony wraps, and then it's time for cross-examination. On cross, Carrie testifies that Cassie was jealous, particularly of Diddy's relationship with Gina. Carrie says, quote, he, meaning Diddy, was having a full-on relationship with this person, meaning Gina, and Cassie found out about it, and she wouldn't go away. He just wouldn't leave her, so it just went on for a really long time. In regards to Gina, Carrie actually said, quote, he was having a full-on relationship with this little girl. And when prosecutors asked her why she called Gina a little girl, Carrie said, she acts like that, she's younger than us. The last few things Carrie testifies about includes the reason she stopped talking to Cassie after the alleged assault, and she says it's because she didn't feel supported by Cassie after the incident. And Carrie also notes that the reason the incident happened was because Diddy was claiming Cassie was cheating on him, and in the moment, Carrie didn't think this was true, but she says she later learned that Cassie was cheating on him. And with that, Carrie's testimony is complete. Next up is witness David James, who was Diddy's personal assistant from 2007 until 2009. He said during the interview, Diddy asked him why he'd make a good assistant, and he replied, can't stop, won't stop. A few things James mentioned during his testimony was that security staff told him to stay in his lane, and he also mentioned the names of a few of Diddy's girlfriends, including Kim Porter, someone named Sarah, Tara, Yana, and Cassie. David James says he remembers having 2 specific conversations with Cassie. The first one was on the dock of Diddy's Star Island house, and in that one, Cassie said, this lifestyle is crazy, to which James asked her why she won't leave. And Cassie's response to that, according to David James, was she can't leave. She said Diddy controlled her life, her music, he pays for her apartment, and gives her an allowance. And then the second conversation that David James recalled was about music, in which Cassie expressed her happiness about her album coming out. But David James says he doesn't think that album actually ever came out. Before court breaks for the day, James testifies about a time he overheard a business associate ask Diddy about Cassie and Kim Porter, to which Diddy allegedly replied, "Kim is my queen out in LA with my family." While describing Cassie, James testifies that Diddy said, "Cassie is right where I want her. She's young and moldable." And with that, day 6 ends.